There's a quiet revolution happening in tech right now. It's not about some flashy new gadget either. It's a fundamental redesign of how everything works from the ground up, and it's about to change, well, pretty much everything. Think about it. For decades, we've all learned the same simple rule. The CPU, the central processing unit, is the brain of the whole operation. Everything has to flow through it. But what if that idea is totally obsolete now? What if the future isn't about one giant brain, but about a massive network of millions of tiny, specialized ones? And this really gets to the heart of the problem. We've created this massive traffic jam, what you could call the central processing bottleneck. The old way forced every single task, managing data, processing audio, you name it, through one overloaded CPU. It's just inefficient. It's slow. The new way? It's all about decentralization. It's about giving every piece of hardware its own little brain to handle its own specific job. So where is this revolution kicking off? Well, it's starting at the very foundation of computing, the data center. This is where this new way of thinking is being built, like right now. Just look at what IBM is doing with its new flash system. Okay, so instead of having the main server CPU trying to manage terabytes and terabytes of data, they've actually embedded something called an agentic AI directly onto each individual drive. Think of it like a tiny autonomous worker living on the drive itself. So now the drive is smart. It can compress its own data, it can find duplicate files, it can even spot ransomware attacks all on its own, without ever bothering the main processor. So what happens when you give your storage a brain? You get this, a staggering 40% increase in data efficiency. Let that sink in, 40%. That huge computational tax that used to slow down those expensive server CPUs, it's just been completely offloaded, gone. And this has absolutely massive financial implications. For a big cloud company or any large business, this is a fiscal lifesaver. It means you don't have to keep spending millions of dollars upgrading your main Intel or AMD processors just to keep up with the data explosion. The intelligence is now right where the data lives. Now, this trend of decentralizing hardware isn't just about efficiency. It's also starting to reshape global power dynamics. NVIDIA just made a pretty shocking move. They abruptly stopped all shipments of their flagship H200 AI processors to China. But this isn't really about politics or sanctions. Nope, this is a cold, hard, calculated business gamble. Let's just look at their roadmap to see why they do this. Production capacity at TSMC, that's the world's most advanced chipmaker, is limited. It's a finite resource. As you can see here, NVIDIA has decided that using up that precious capacity to make its current-gen Hopper chips for the Chinese market is frankly a strategic mistake. They're freeing up those production lines to massively accelerate their next-generation architecture, the one codenamed Vera Rubin, which is planned for late 2026. So here's the trade-off. NVIDIA is willing to sacrifice a ton of revenue from China right now to guarantee it has the manufacturing muscle to launch Rubin on time. Their whole goal is to maintain what they call a ruthless upgrade cycle. That means dropping new, insanely powerful chips so fast that competitors like AMD and Google just can't afford the R&D to even try to keep up. It's a huge bet on total future dominance over short-term profit. Okay, so we're seeing this in the data center, but this same philosophy is conquering totally new frontiers. Let's take a look at how it's showing up in places like the automotive world and even pro audio. Check this out. For self-driving cars, LiDAR is basically the gold standard for seeing the world. The best systems out there today use about 192 laser lines to scan the environment. Well, Huawei just showed off a new system with 896 lines. That is nearly 5 times the resolution, 5 times the detail in the 3D map it's building of the world in real time. The car can now see everything with almost microscopic detail. And here's why that's a game changer. By making the sensor itself incredibly smart and detailed, you take a huge burden off the car's main computer. It doesn't have to run these heavy, error-prone algorithms to try and guess if that thing on the road is a plastic bag or a small animal. It gets raw, undeniable, ground truth data. And that is the key ingredient for true Level 4 self-driving. Now let's switch over to audio. If you're a streamer or a podcaster, you know the pain. Adding pro effects like noise cancellation or compression hogs your PC's CPU and creates that annoying lag. The old way was just a mess. But now, Corsair's Elgato has created a custom Wave FX chip. This little dedicated processor does all the heavy lifting right there on the hardware itself. The result? You get zero latency, studio quality sound, and your computer's CPU, it doesn't even break a sweat. So, this trend isn't just happening with high-end, expensive gear. The part that's truly going to bend your mind is the scale of it all, from the impossibly tiny and cheap all the way up to the global economy. 64 cents. That's it. That's the price for a brand new microcontroller from ST Microelectronics that has its own AI capabilities. I'm not kidding. For less than the cost of a pack of gum, you can now buy a tiny little computer chip with its own dedicated AI coprocessor. This changes literally everything. It means that for the rest of this decade, pretty much no electronic device will remain dumb. Your smart lock can have its own biometric analysis built in. Your cheap fitness tracker can monitor your health without ever sending data to the cloud. You can have industrial sensors that listen for tiny failures in factory motors. Intelligence is becoming totally pervasive and practically free. But, and this is a big but, this revolution is creating a new kind of tension. Even as these little chips get cheaper and smarter, the physical world they have to travel through is getting way more complicated. Take Valve. They just had to jack up the price of their Steam Deck OLED in Asia, and that includes Taiwan, the very heart of PC manufacturing. And their official statement says it all. It's because of the messy, real-world costs of logistics, shipping, and insurance. And this isn't just about one handheld gaming device. This is a huge warning sign. It's showing us that while intelligence is decentralizing and getting super cheap at the micro level, the physical supply chains that bring us these smart devices are becoming more fragile and unpredictable. It's the central paradox of this new age. Digital abundance is slamming right into physical scarcity. So what do we get when we put all these pieces together? We have IBM's smart storage, NVIDIA's high-stakes gambles, we have 64-cent AI chips, and this weird paradox of the physical world. What's the verdict? What does it all mean for the future of technology? It boils down to this one singular, overriding engineering mandate for our time. The entire industry has realized that funneling everything through a central CPU is an old, broken bottleneck. The only way forward is to decentralize intelligence. Every single component now has to think for itself. The message really couldn't be any clearer. It doesn't matter if it's a massive data center server or a tiny thermostat on your wall, the architectural principle is exactly the same. Stop creating traffic jams. Give every part of the system its own brain and just let it do its job.
And this whole shift leaves us with a really fascinating and maybe even a little unsettling final question. As we move from a world with a few powerful central brains to a world with a trillion microscopic autonomous brains all working at the same time, who, or maybe what, is actually doing the thinking?